Good morning. I will discuss with the last module, structural dynamics. So, structural dynamics deals with the study of structural systems when subjected to dynamic loads. Now, what is dynamic load? Dynamic loads are loads which vary in magnitude, direction, and point of application with respect to time. So, if the load is varying either in magnitude, in direction, or point of application with respect to time, it is called a dynamic load. A static load is a constant load. It does not depend upon the time. Only dead load is treated as static load. Majority of today's structures are subjected to dynamic loads. So let us see some examples of dynamic loads. High-rise structures subjected to wind and earthquake forces. Offshore structures subjected to wave forces. Aeroplanes flying in the air. Then vehicles moving on the road. Motion of reciprocating engines. All these are some examples of dynamic loads. So it is the wave force, the wind force, the earthquake force. All these vary with respect to time. Now, what is the effect of this dynamic load on the structures? The dynamic load produces vibration in structures, which is undesirable for a number of reasons. It produces large displacements and severe stresses. Then it crosses due to vibration. There may be cracking may develop in the structure. Also, there may be variation of stresses, fluctuation of stresses. If it is structure is vibrating, the fibers which are or the sections which are initially in tension, due to this vibration, it may be alternatively subjected to tension and compression, or the variation of stresses, fluctuation of stresses produces what is called the fatigue failure. So the performance of instruments, very delicate instruments are placed inside the rockets, aeroplanes, etc. So that instruments they get damaged. Also, the vibration causes discomfort to the occupant. So all these are the certain things which are undesirable. So the dynamic loads, they produce vibration and the vibration is undesirable. So it is very essential that we have to do the dynamic analysis for structures or the find out the various responses, that is stresses, strains, deflections, etc. when a structure is subjected to dynamic load. Now, what is the basic difference between a dynamic analysis and static analysis? See, we have seen the dynamic load, it varies in with respect to time. So, if a structure is subjected to a displacement, say a structure is subjected to a displacement, say load, it is a dynamic load, it is subjected to displacement. This displacement varies with time. So, if the displacement is varying with time, what will happen? Say the displacement is varying with time, change in displacement in unit time is called velocity. So it will be subjected to changes in velocity. The velocity also varies with time. So the structure is subjected to acceleration. So the mass of the structure into acceleration that will produce inertia forces. So there will be inertia forces acting in the structure opposite its direction of the external load. So that is the main difference between a dynamic analysis and static analysis. In dynamic analysis, the load is time dependent. Hence, the structure will be subjected to acceleration, which opposes the direction of motion, and mass into acceleration is called inertia force. The inertia force is significant. The dynamic analysis should be carried out. Strictly speaking, even live load is moving load. That should also be considered as dynamic load, but we are not considering it as dynamic load. Why? Because the motion is very small. So the resulting acceleration is very small, so that it can be neglected. So only dead load is actually static load. All other loads are dynamic loads. So if the inertia force is significant, if the mass is small and the acceleration is very high, then also we have to consider. Or if the mass is very high, the acceleration is small, then also the inertia force will be high. So in all these cases, when the inertia forces are significant, we have to take into account, or we have to do dynamic analysis. Now, dynamic loads. We can classify the dynamic loads. Dynamic loads are time-dependent loads. It can be classified as periodic load and non-periodic load. From the term itself, it is clear. What is periodic load? Periodic loads are repetitive loads which exhibit same time variation successively for large number of cycles. So this is represents a periodic load because it repeats, the load repeats itself for several interval of time. The second one, this is also a periodic load. This can be expressed as a sum of two harmonic motions. So the loads which are repetitive in nature are called periodic loads, and example of periodic loads are rotating machinery. If a machine is rotating at a constant speed and it is housed in a room, so the machine foundation will be subjected to vibrations, and that type of load is called periodic load, the rotating machinery in a building. Then the reciprocating engine, the piston moving inside a fluid in an engine. Reciprocating engine is an example of periodic load. The propeller forces at the stern of a ship. So these are certain examples of periodic loading. Then next one is non-periodic load. What is non-periodic load? If the motion is repetitive, we call it as periodic. If the motion does not repeat itself at regular intervals, then it is called non-periodic loading. So non-periodic loading, they can have two types. One is the duration of the load will be small. Small duration impulsive load, that is very high magnitude, P versus time. If I plot very large force acting for a small interval of time, that can be an impulsive force, that is a non-periodic load. Or long duration, it lasts for long time, but it is not that uh, high impulsive loading. The load which is lasting for a long time like this, or which lasts for a very short interval of time like this, that is the blast load, we can represent like this. This is the wave loading. This is example of a wave load on a offshore platform. The earthquake on buildings, then the vehicle loads acting over the bridges. All these are examples of non-periodic loading. Now we'll come to the certain terms which have to be very much familiar before going into start with the analysis part. Certain definition terms. The first term which you always come across in dynamic analysis is response of the system. The term response, see, the dynamic load applied to a system, it produces certain motions. It also produces associated stresses, strain, reaction, etc. So the term response may be any one of the above effects, any of the above effects. It can be a stress response, it can be a displacement response, it can be a strain response. So it is nothing but the effect of dynamic load, and the commonly we call it as, if you simply say response, normally we mean it as a displacement time history. That is the variation of displacement along y-axis and time along x-axis. We call it as a displacement response. Similarly, if you plot velocity along y-axis and time along, it's a velocity response. Similarly, acceleration along y-axis and time along x-axis, it's an acceleration response. So response is a general term. It is the effect of the dynamic load. As the load varies with time, the response also varies with time. So the variation of the effect of the dynamic load with respect to time is generally known as the response of the system. So that is first ever thing you have to understand in dynamic analysis, response. That is variation of the effect with respect to time. Next is degree of freedom. The degree of freedom means the number of possible independent displacements of the mass of the system. So it is the in what all ways a mass can move. It is independent. Generally, a mass can undergo six possible displacements in space. Three horizontal displacements, x, y, z directions, translation displacements, and three rotation components. However, in actual systems, the movement of the mass in certain directions may be constrained. So we can define the degree of freedom of a physical structure. This is corresponding to the dynamic analysis. The degree of freedom of a physical system is defined as the minimum number of independent coordinates required to define completely the position of the mass at any instant of time. So we'll come on to this detail one by one. So degree of freedom means the number of coordinates. So suppose now the mass is at one particular position. After a certain time, if you want to say where this mass will be, if you want to locate this position after a certain interval of time, we may require certain coordinates. In certain case, we may require x, y, z coordinates. In certain times, we may require the rotational coordinates. So with minimum number of coordinates which are required to describe the position of a mass after a certain interval of time is called the degree of freedom. Accordingly, we can define the structures or categorize them into different form. First one, single degree of freedom system. Normally we use the term SDOF, single degree of freedom system. That means a single coordinate is sufficient to define the configuration of the system at any time. So if you want, with the help of only one coordinate, if you can define the position of a structure after a certain interval of time, we call it as a single degree of freedom system. Let me explain it once again with the help of an example. It is consider, say this is a water tank structure. Assume this is an actual structure, a water tank. It's having some mass. These are the brace systems, columns, etc. It is subjected to the horizontal load. It is subjected to load in this direction as shown in this figure. So this will vibrate. So this can be idealized. Always for the dynamic analysis, we have to model the structure. The actual structure has been converted into a simplified form. So this is converted as a simplified system like this. That is, the entire mass is assumed to be concentrated. It is called a lumped mass system. The entire mass is assumed to be constant at the top, marked as M. This horizontal load is marked as PT. And the stiffness of all these columns, how much it will deflect in this direction, how much deformation it undergoes, that will depend upon the stiffness of the column. Stiffness is the load required to produce unit deformation. So the stiffness of the columns all together, we have marked it as the single line. So this actual structure is simplified like this. A water tank structure is idealized like a lumped mass system like this. Now, let us see. For analysis, this is called the analytical model. Analytical model is nothing but, see, we have made this mass is allowed to move only considering only this direction displacement. So this mass is placed on rollers here. It is placed on rollers so that it's allowed to move only in x direction. X is the displacement of the center of the mass. To represent the stiffness of the columns, we have used, say, K. The K represents a spring, represents the stiffness of the columns. This is subjected to this horizontal force. The force, it is subjected to the force. So this mass moves. So after a certain interval of time, if the mass deflects like this, if you want to represent the position of this mass, I just need this one coordinate. If with this help of this one coordinate X, I can locate the position of the mass after a certain interval of time. So this model, this is called a spring mass model or a single degree of freedom system. So with reference to this one coordinate X, I can locate the position of the mass after a certain interval of time. It is called a single degree of freedom system. So mass M, K, the stiffness represented by a spring of constant K, and that is the restoring force. And P is the loading. Now coming to multiple degree of freedom system, you consider a two-storied building like this. So this entire mass is assumed to be concentrated here. This entire mass is assumed to be concentrated here. So it is subject to a horizontal load PT like this. So if you want to fix the position or to have to identify the position of these two different masses after a certain interval of time. So the first mass undergoes a displacement x1. The second mass at the top, it undergoes a displacement x2. So after t time, if you know the quantity x1 and x2, then only you can locate the position of this structure. So this is idealized like this. Mass m1, it is on rollers because it is considering only the horizontal motion. This mass m2, it is on rollers, x2 is the motion of it, and the stiffness of these two columns put together is k1, and the stiffness of these column completely, this is k2. This is k2. So this is called a 2 degree of freedom system because the two coordinates x1 and x2 are required to define the position of the mass after a certain interval of time. Hence, this is called a 2 degree of freedom system. Now, always there need not be two masses in order to have a 2 degree of freedom system. Even for a single mass, I will explain one thing. Let it say there is a pendulum. Consider say a pendulum like this, a simple pendulum. Suppose it is oscillating, and after a certain interval of time, it is here. If I want to describe the position of this pendulum mass at certain interval of time, I need require only this theta. Provided I am assuming this string is inextensible. If I assume the string is inextensible, the pendulum is having oscillation like this. So if I assume it is inextensible, to locate the position of this mass after a certain interval of time, I need require only theta. So it is a single degree of freedom system. But assume if the string is extensible, the string undergoes extension. Then the position of the mass after certain interval of time, if I want to specify this, I need require this theta as well as this extension of the spring, extension of the string to which it is attached. So here there is only one mass. Even then, it can be a 2 degree of freedom system. Okay, so it is not always necessary that if there is only two lumped masses, it will be a 2 degree of freedom system. No. So in this case of a simple pendulum, if I consider the string to be inextensible, വലിയുന്നില്ല എന്നാണ് assumption എങ്കിൽ, to locate its position after a certain interval of time, I need only theta. So it can be one mass, 1 degree of freedom, one coordinate is required. But if the string is assumed to be extensible, if it is extensible, this will undergo a displacement in this direction also. In addition to this theta, it will undergo a displacement as the string is extensible. So the same mass, that is only one mass, but the two coordinates are required, theta as well as the extension of the string, So it can be a 2 degree freedom system or multi-degree freedom system, even if there is only a single mass. So the definition of degree of freedom I will explain once again. If only one coordinate, number of coordinates required to locate the position of the mass at any instant of time. Now, these are the two lumped mass systems. Another case is continuous system. Consider a cantilever like this, it is deflecting. So the total mass can be assumed to be concentrated at small interval. You can assume that the mass is distributed over the entire length of this beam. So each of this will be having a vertical displacement, or the degree of freedom of this system is infinity. So if the mass of a system such as a beam is distributed over the entire length, the mass is considered to have infinite degrees of freedom. So if the infinite degrees of freedom is there, we call it as a continuous system. Okay, so single degree freedom system, multiple degree freedom system, and continuous system. For the single degree freedom system and multiple degree freedom system lumped mass arrangement, lumped mass system, the governing differential equations will be ordinary differential equations. Whereas if you assume the analysis, the mass is distributed over the entire length, that is for more detailed analysis, we may go for continuous system. In that case, the governing differential equations will be partial differential equations.